Hi guys, this video is all about turning fractions into, reducing them to their simplest terms. Now, oftentimes we deal with fractions and we will go through, we'll add them, we'll subtract them, and we'll think we're all done. And this is a big mistake because a lot of times what you guys do is you don't actually reduce them to their simplest terms. And actually, a lot of times questions ask you to do that. Now, there's a lot of good reason why you might want to reduce something to simplest terms. Oftentimes, fractions are so huge, the pieces are actually very, very tiny that when you count them all up, you're like, oh my gosh, well, what is this? What does this look like? I know halves, I know thirds, I know fourths, but what does an 82nd look like? What does a 131st look like? So those fractions are really, really challenging to imagine what they look like. But a lot of times, thankfully, you're able to reduce them to a more familiar, easier to work with fraction. So I'm going to teach you how to do this, or for some of you, go over again how to do this, okay? So what I've done here is I've drawn three equivalent fractions, okay? Now up here, this is 4/8. Down here, this is 2/4. And down here, this is 1/2. You can see that our whole size is the same. And you can also see that our portion that we've shaded is also the same. So we can say that these are equivalent fractions, okay? That means that their portion out of the whole is exactly the same. Even though their piece sizes are different, the fraction is still the same, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to write down what the fractions are that I just dealt with. 4/8, 2/4, and 1/2. There you go. All right, so we're gonna learn a strategy that you can use to convert or to reduce fractions to their simplest terms. But first we gotta know, what is simplest terms? What does that mean? Well, here's the definition of simplest terms. It is when the fraction is when the numerator and the denominator can no longer be divided by a common factor. It's when the numerator and denominator can no longer be divided by a common factor, okay? So in other words, if we look here at 4/8, well, we can divide that into 2, okay? So you see how here we've got 4 here. We can divide that by 2, and looky here, when we divide that by 2, we're gonna get 2. Okay, 4 divided by 2 is 2. And we can see here, that doesn't change the fraction amount. We still have the exact same portion of the fraction, okay? Now, we need to know, what is a factor? A factor is a number that you multiply to get to another number. So for example, 8, if we're talking about all the factors of 8, we have 1, because 1 times 8 is 8. We have 2, because 2 times 4 is 8. And we have 4, because 4 times 2 is 8. And we have 8, because 8 times 1 is 8. So the factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8, okay? All right, so again, we're asking ourselves, what is the common factor that we could use to get us to our smallest, or rather our, in this case, actually the biggest piece that will not change the portion of the fraction. So I'm going to teach you a strategy that you can use. And again, this is probably review for some of you guys. This is called the greatest common factor, the greatest common factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the numerator, we're going to look at the denominator, and we're going to list out all of the factors that we can. And then we're going to see, what is the biggest one that there is. Because when we do that, when we list out all the factors, that is a number that we can use to divide both the numerator and the denominator by to make a simpler fraction. So I'm going to go back to my first page, and I'm going to go through that with some smaller fractions, okay? So let's start here with 4/8, okay? Now, let's go ahead and let's just try 2, just for the heck of it, because I bet you that you saw right away, oh, well, 4 and 8, those can both be divided by 2. So we're going to start with 2. And then in a second, I'll do the greatest common factor, and I'll show you what that looks like. So we divide both by 2. Now you'll remember, whatever we do to the numerator, and if we do the same thing to the denominator, it's not going to change our fraction. It's going to be the same portion. Okay, so we divide 4 by 2. We get 2 as our new numerator. You see that? And we take our 8 and divide that by 2, and we're going to get a 4. Okay, so our new fraction, our equivalent fraction, is 2/4. Now, if looking up here, we can see easily that 4/8 is the same thing as 2/4. But wait a minute, looky here. We know right away, because of our picture, that we can get a simpler term than that. Okay, so again, we can go ahead and divide this by 2 again. And when we do that, we get 1/2. Or again, look up here to our picture. 1/2 is the simplest terms. Now, if we look at 1 and we look at 2, can 1 or 2 be divided by any common factor? Well, yes, they can. 1 can be divided by 1, and 2 could be divided by 1. They can both be divided by 1, a common factor. But wait a minute, is that going to change our fraction? Is it going to turn into a new equivalent fraction? No, because when we divided 1 by 1, we get 1. When we divide 2 by 1, we get 2. So we still have the same exact fraction, 1/2. 1/2 is our simplest term. It's the biggest size piece that we can possibly get out of our fraction. Okay? All right, so now I'm going to show you how to do that in terms of listing out all the factors. Okay, so I'll start back up with our 4/8 is the one we're working with, and we'll list out all the factors of 4. So the factors of 4 are 1, 2, and 4. 1, 2, and 4. Now, I just told you that we don't care about the 1 because all fractions, all numbers have factors of 1, so it doesn't kind of matter. And again, it didn't make a difference up here. So we list out all the factors, 1, 2, and 4, and we'll do the same thing for 8 down here. The factors of 8 are, again, 1, 2, 4, and 8. All right, so looking here at the factors of 4, we have 1, 2, and 4, and the factors of 8, we have 1, 2, 4, and 8. Well, the greatest common factor is 4. Okay, now if we had started out, instead of dividing by 2 and we divided by 4, we would have gone ahead and gotten our simplest term, which is 1/2. Let's go ahead and do that. 4/8 divided by 4, because we're finding the greatest common factor, divided by 4 is equal to 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Our simplest term is 1/2. Again, I showed you up here. Okay. All right. So I'll give you 2 practice problems to work on. You can pause the video and then resume it if you want to. If you're good to go, you can just go ahead and end the video. But I'm going to actually go through this if you would like a little bit of extra help. Okay. So go ahead and pause the video here. And work this on your own. 42 49ths, and here's another one, 88 99ths. Okay? All right, so in just a second, I'm going to go through these with you, but again, feel free to skip if you're good to go. All right, so to figure this out, we list all the factors of 42, okay? So 42, I know 2 is definitely a factor. 3 is not, because 42 is not divisible by 3. 4, I'm not sure, but I'll go ahead and try that out. You know what? I might actually, I might use a calculator for this. Let me grab my handy dandy calculator. It'll make my life a whole lot easier. Open up my calculator. And turns out my batteries are dead. So I'm going to go ahead and do the old-fashioned way. 42 divided by 4. Well, we know that goes in 4 goes into 41 time. And when we take that away, we have a remainder of 2. So it does not go evenly into 4. 5, no, I don't think it goes in. 6, does it go into 6? No, it does not go evenly into 6. How about 7? Well, we know it does go into, it does go into 6. Because we know 6 times 7 is 42, okay? So here are some factors that we've listed out. And let's go ahead and do our 49 now. We'll list out some factors of 49. Well, we know 1, but we don't really care about that. 2, well, 9 is not divisible by 2. 3, maybe 3. Let's try it out. And we'll do the old-fashioned way. Goes into 1. A remainder of 1. Bring down the 9. No, 19 is a prime number. It does not go into 49. Okay, how about 4? We could try 4. Goes into 1. No, it looks like 4 is not divisible. But you know what I do know is 7. 7 is a factor because I know 7 times 7 is equal to 49. So right away, I can see that 7 and 7 are a common factor of 42 and 49. So let's start with 7. Let's go ahead and you know what? We can, this is a little trick you can use. If you can't find the greatest common factor, you can just keep finding factors of your new fraction until you get the simplest term. It's not a big deal, okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll take our fraction, 42 49ths. We'll divide it by our factor of 7. 42 divided by 7 is equal to 6. And 49 divided by 7 is equal to 7. Oh, okay. Now that's much easier to work with. Our new equivalent fraction is 6/7. Well, 6 and 7, they do not share any factors other than 1. 6/7 is our simplest term. Okay? I'm going to let you do 88 99ths on your own. All right? All right, toodaloo.